Hello everyone and welcome to the first in a Let's Play of Touhou Fangames. So yeah, this game actually has not been released yet, but it will be released tomorrow, so don't worry. This is Touhou, The Shattered Sky. This is a game that has been in development for a long time by Eredom and his team. I personally have also been involved in the development, although not too much. I was just kind of like the tester. I did a lot of balancing and testing on the Lunatic mode in specific. And I've been around the team since about June or May of last year, so I've been on this team for about a year. I also wrote the dialogues for this game because there was a bit of a problem near the end of release and they really needed someone to redo and finish the dialogues, and I kind of stepped in to do that. But I actually had a lot of fun with that. Regardless, this game has a lot of content. We're talking about like 3 extra stages, tons of last words, lots of shot types, a special mode after you beat everything else. It's got a lot of content, and it is the first game in the series that Eredom and friends, we don't really have a team name yet, hopefully we'll get one, are going to make. There is a new game that is going to be in development as well, although there aren't much details on that and there isn't much I can give away just yet, but do know that there is going to be another game that will be coming out in the long future. So, anyway, let's focus our attention on this current game. So, what do we have here? We have 3 characters, Reimu, Marissa, and Sanae. I'm going to be doing Reimu, and I'll be playing as the Needle Shot, and I'm going to try to no-bomb, but I've never no-bombed before, so I don't know if I can actually succeed. I did a lot of practicing, though, so maybe it should go okay. If this doesn't work out, I'll probably just resort to doing a regular take with just, like, bombs and stuff, but I really want to try that no-bomb clear, so... Sorry, I just woke up like an hour ago, so I'm still trying to wake up. Not even an hour ago, like 30 minutes ago. Anyway, this game will be coming out tomorrow, so the video that you will get today will only be the first 3 stages, which is the demo, which you can download today, by the way. You can play the trial if you want. So I will do the first 3 stages today, then tomorrow you'll get the last 3 stages, and maybe the extra stage, and then the day after, you'll get like all of like the other extra stages and last words and special difficulty and stuff like that. I do have a bit of a busy schedule this week, so I don't know how fast I can upload all this, but I'll try my best. Anyway, enough stalling. Let's get into the game. So as it's stage 1, I do need to explain a lot of the mechanics in the game. So what are the mechanics in this game in particular? So you see this little thing, it's a vortex. It'll spawn when you kill certain enemies, and why am I standing in said vortex? It's because I want to fill the gauge on the right. You might notice that as I stay in these red vortexes, the gauge on the right slowly goes to the right side of the screen. When it gets to 100%, I will get 2 life pieces. And the same applies to the green vortex, which you see right there, except for bombs. So if I were to go into the green vortex and go to negative 100%, then I would get some bomb pieces. There are blue vortexes as well, which are different. They don't really affect your gauge on the right. Instead, they give you point item value the longer you stay in them. So if you're trying to score, then you definitely want to go for those blue gauges. Also, I want to point out that on the bottom left, you might see that there's a gauge there. When you fill that up completely by staying in a vortex, you'll get auto-collected items at max value, and consequently, the life pieces and bomb pieces that you get from the vortex will be auto-collected as well, so that's really nifty. Cherno is our mid-boss, because why not? Although she doesn't really have anything too challenging to talk about, it's just the usual. So yeah, you can see now that we have a vortex of each color on the screen. I'm just going to go for the red one because I want those lives. I will say something about these stage enemies, is that when you kill them, they will explode into blitz. So you've got to take into account that you don't necessarily want to kill as many fairies as possible, because you could give yourself a pretty bad situation. Alright, so, I'm not gonna go too much into plot, but I did kind of write the dialogue, so I will mention plot points here and there. Basically, the premise so far is that the fairies are going pretty crazy. Reimu thinks it's hot. She's talking about Letty Whiterock, and then our boss, Rayson, comes in and is basically trying to convince Reimu to go into action because, you know, there's something going on at Ainte and we need to investigate. But first we have to beat her because it's a Touhou game. You have to fight characters. So, her first spell is a spell card that everyone will die to at least once, and I'm saying this because it's true. You have to misdirect it. However, I'm just saying this. It is not a spell which you can underestimate. It is actually a little bit challenging, and as I said before, everyone who plays this game will fail that spell at least once. Mark my word. Hehe. Okay, on the second non-spell, don't underestimate this either. Although it's not very difficult, Rayson doesn't really follow you that much, so you might have problems staying under her. So you have to actually be really careful, and you have to actually work to stay under her, so keep that in mind. Although on most patterns in this game, the bosses do follow you. It's just these early game patterns that I don't really do so. Do keep in mind that this is Eredom's first game, and so there may be a bit of a quality difference from like the first early game to like the late game, because everyone on the team was improving as they went along. So keep that in mind. Also, I want to point out that these remixes, these songs are amazing. They were composed by DJ Abner, and I love his music. I can't wait to see what he comes up with for the second game. Also, if you're worried about like the art, in our second game we've got this really amazing artist that will be doing like all the artwork, so the artwork will definitely be improved for that second game. And that was Rayson. There wasn't really too much to talk about because outside of that first spell, she's actually pretty easy. So yeah, we have to go to Ainte now. Have to go to Ainte. So go to the left, count 13, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, stop shooting, and then, or count 14 and then stop shooting and then kill that one last Jing Yang. So the very last Jing Yang in the chain will drop a vortex that you want to stand in, but if you kill it on the left side of the screen, you probably won't be able to make use of it because you won't be able to reach it. So the trick to this stage is to make sure you're counting when to stop shooting. That way you can lure that one fairy to like the middle of the screen and then finish it off, so you can position your vortex to a spot that you'd want to use it in. It's most important on the mid-boss though, because on the mid-boss non-spell, the vortex won't be reachable if she's on the left. So keep that in mind. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then on the 8th one, kill it in the middle. You see how it's in the middle? Now that, when the mid-boss okay, it does kind of move to the right a little bit, but it's not like on the right side of the screen, so I can kind of hug this vortex a bit, and then I'll get out of it and try to make my way under the boss. Don't underestimate this non-spell. It's not really that tricky, but you've got to be careful. Thankfully, the fireboxes have general fair hitboxes. It might be the Danmakufu hitboxes, but in consideration of how wonky the Danmakufu hitboxes, the fireball hitboxes have been lessened a little bit, not to the point that they're like free, but to the point where you won't get dumb clip deaths. So that also applies to the bubbles in this game as well. So we are thinking. Actually, to be honest, there's only one pattern in this game that I myself actually made. It's on one of the extra stages, and I will definitely point out the one I made when we get there. For now, though, let's focus on what we have at hand. So on this point, it's very important to focus on the big fairies that spawn, not the two on the left and the right. Those have like infinite HP bars. But you need to kill these big fairies, even if there's vortexes on screen. Ignore the vortexes and kill these. You have to kill these fairies or you're gonna get walled. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Alright, so a good strategy for this part is as soon as you get to 100%, just ignore the vortex and try to kill the fairy in the middle. If you try to keep hugging the vortex, you might run into the green vortex anyway, which will get rid of your net profit, and you'll risk dying to this weird diagonal fairy thing. So just don't. One trick in this game is don't be too greedy with the vortexes, because if you're too greedy, you might die. You have to use these sparingly, unless you just want to bomb spam and just hug the vortexes, which is also something you can do. But I'm not going to do that because that's just, I'm using no bombs, so yeah. Alright, so now they're talking about a shadow. And we are going to fight Sayuri. Yes. Katsugi Sayuri, our stage 2 boss, which is, I think it's Eredom's favorite character of this game. I'm not too big of a fan of Sayuri or her boss fight. You'll see why. You're gonna get a lot of show vibes. Anyway, her first non-spell is the hardest thing she has in the fight. Yeah, it's really difficult to do. The angle of the ball bullets is basically the entire difficulty of this non. If they angle in such a way that it becomes difficult, then yeah, you're kind of screwed. Usually they're not that bad though. Luckily, due to the reduced fireball hitboxes, they're a bit more doable, but I mean, it's not something you're going to get every time. That's just what I'm going to say. Though, in regards to the rest of her fight, you should be fine. The trick to this spell is to find the safe spot between the fireball bullets. You might die if a laser spawns in between, but you can recover if you're paying attention. So pay attention. So for this, to find the safe spot between the Kirby lasers, look at the line on where the thing fires. Like, you want to stay underneath that part. So you need to read ahead and look at the spawning position of the lasers to find the safe spots between the Kirby lasers. You're not actually supposed to read them as they're coming down, so don't worry. The second spell is your breather spell. Just make sure that you're paying attention, because if you're not paying attention, you might be surprised, but it dies pretty quickly. The third non isn't much about visual cues as it is just about paying attention. There is a visual cue, but it's kind of complicated to explain. But I mean, if you practice it, you probably understand it. And then the last spell is it's a fair spell. It's not that hard, but it's not trivial. It's just random dodging. I mean, usually it's fine, but you have to pay attention. Don't underestimate it, but usually you'll be fine. Yeah, the only problem you should have on this fight is just that first non-spell, which, grr, I hate it. I hate that first non. Anyway, we've already beaten Sayuri, so now we're just going to continue on to Ainte. And we weren't actually in Ainte, we were in the Bamboo Forest of the Lost, if you couldn't tell. But now we're going to Ainte for a very special stage. This is actually I think it's my favorite stage and boss in the game, to be honest. Although stage 4 is really good, so it's hard to compare the two because they're both really top-notch. Anyway, on stage 3, try to be in the vortex for a little bit, but just ignore it. You're not going to be able to make use of that vortex like you want, so just don't try, because this streaming section happens immediately after. So I like to stream the second wave a bit to the right. I stream the first wave to the left and the second wave to the right, and then you gotta immediately go in. Be careful though. What you're supposed to do is you're supposed to immediately go back into the middle because you need to kill this fairy. If you fail to kill this fairy like I did here, oh, I did kill it. If you fail to kill that fairy, you're screwed. So, yeah. And then on this part, just make sure that you're killing at least one side of the screen. If you're not killing at least one side of the screen, then you're basically screwed. Go kill the other side. You can kill one of those sides before they spawn bullets, but you're not going to be able to kill both of them. You can hug the vortex for a little bit, and then when you kill this first before going back into the vortex. I'm taking a little risk here by not directly killing those enemies as soon as they spawn, simply because I want to make use of that vortex. It's not too dangerous, but just keep in mind it is a risk. Alright, so I think this gives away who we're about to see, but yes. This entire stage is a callback to Ido. and all those folk. It's a nice tribute to them and their hard work. This spell is one of my favorite spells in the game, actually. It's a really good dodging exercise. It's tough, but it really tests your reading. It's a really good spell. That's awesome. And yes, you can see that shadow in the background is getting deeper. So there really is a shadow over Ainte. Okay. I missed that fairy somehow. Wow. Anyway, you can see I'm not really being too aggressive with the vortexes. Starting from stage 3 onward, you're really not going to be able to use the vortexes that much unless you're bombing. Basically, that means you're not going to be able to like spam life gain like in DDC or LOLK, but that might not necessarily be a bad thing. It just means that your resources are kind of more limited than you might think, especially if you're doing like no bombs. But there is an advantage. You do get resources from boss attacks if you don't die, so you will still get resources, don't worry. Like, this game will still give you lives even if you can't constantly hug vortexes. So it's pretty obvious who our boss is gonna be. This is Anyaizaki. She is the stage 5 boss of Mystical Power Plant. And she's got a really cool remix theme to boot. You can thank Abner for that. So yeah, this boss fight might be my favorite boss fight in the game. It's really cool. P.S. I think I prefer this fight to her Mystical Power Plant fight. Anyway, on the first non-spell, the only thing you really need to do is be careful of those needle bullets. Watch where they're going so that you know in advance where you could kind of hide away. Alright, so the first spell, regardless of what you may like, you have to move around a lot in this spell. If you don't move around a lot in this spell, you're gonna die. I will say though that despite the fact that it's hard to damage, you do have the advantage of Yaizaki following you. So even if you're a focus forward shot type, you can still do decent damage. So you won't have to last too long on that spell. Like, it'll still die, so don't worry about moving around too much. On this non, you'll want to try to be in the middle as much as possible, because the green butterflies will never go directly in the middle, but sometimes the needles will. So if you see that they are, go away from the middle because you will get walled. So just pay attention. This is my least favorite attack in the fight, by the way, because of the curvy lasers. I'm not really sure how to predict the curvy lasers too well because I don't really understand them too well myself. They are slow though, so it's not like too bad of an attack, but yeah, curvy lasers I'm not a fan of, and I'll never be a fan of. The third non-spell is the hardest non in the fight. It's more of an endurance test. There's not really a strat to it like the other two nons. It's basically just random dodging and endurance. So just kind of hold your ground. I think it has the least amount of HP out of all the nons. Spring in Japan is the hardest attack in this entire fight though, I think. It's not static. It really is not static. It's actually quite random, so you have to dodge. It can give you some really confusing situations on the eye. It might have looked easy there, but trust me, do not underestimate that spell, because it can give you some really, really bizarre situations. Anyway, so this fight is an alternate left and right spell, but it's actually really cool looking. All of the Kodama work together, and it's really cool. This fight is just really good. It's really good. I like it. It's a good throwback to Mystical Power Plant, or to Ido and all those people in general. It's quite a treat. With enough practice, you should be able to no miss no bomb it fairly consistently. Assuming you don't die to Spring in Japan. Spring in Japan will always cuck you. Yeah, so yeah, that was a no miss no bomb Yaizaki. I'm pretty proud of that. So, that's gonna be it for this video in particular. However, tomorrow I will happily release the end of this LP, which will be stages 4 through 6. I don't know if I'll do extra tomorrow. I might or might not. It depends on how much time I have. I don't have too much time tomorrow, so I can't make full promises, but I will definitely try to get stages 4 through 6.